Hey fellas, welcome to Guys in Grief, sponsored by Emma's Footprints and First Candle. We started this podcast for fathers like us that have experienced pregnancy or infant loss. You see, when we went through these life-changing experiences, we struggled to find resources that were specifically for men in support of navigating this grieving process. We're not doctors. We're not psychiatrists. We're three friends. We're grieving fathers that have been through the unthinkable and want to help others by talking about the unique and often undiscussed perspective of men that have experienced child loss. We welcome you to join us on this journey. Share your stories, the challenges, laugh with us, maybe shed a tear or two, and help each other as we navigate honoring our children, grief, supporting our family, and trying to find better days ahead. Let's get into it. Well, welcome to Guys in Grief, episode number 2. Brandon, Brian, what's up, boys?
What's going on, fellas?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. It is, what is it, December 19th? This episode won't come out for almost a month, but happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Merry Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. It's a lot of love to all of you, albeit maybe a handful of weeks post the holidays. And first off, we just kicked off with some of our social platforms with Facebook and Instagram, and we haven't even released an episode yet, and really have an awesome response with nearly 150 followers already across those platforms. And basically all we did was post a picture of the logo that we're doing this damn thing. So pretty awesome that we've got people engaged, and I think the power of what we're hoping this to be is already starting to show that there's something here, right, boys?
Yeah, we're here to listen. So we appreciate all the followers, and we want to hear from all of you. So send in your stories. The part of the show is having guests and talking to you, and everybody has a story that I think will resonate with someone. And don't be shy to reach out, send us an email, give us a shout out. We're excited to do this.
Definitely. So share the news, share the information. We were trending, I guess.
Were we globally trending?
Yeah. I'll call it
like us and Elon Musk or something.
Oh yeah. Hashtag Guys in Grief.
I think it was just our immediate family that also.
Yeah, we're trending amongst our immediate family. Absolutely.
I will say it's actually been really cool seeing the amount of people that I know that have not gone through loss that have shared it.
Absolutely.
Just supporting friends and family members. That's been pretty powerful. So I can only imagine once our voices start getting across on the podcast airwaves, hopefully that continues to impact and increase. Brian, let's jump in with our first ever segment. Kick us off.
Wow, we've got a segment.
There's a segment.
Everyone.
This
is exciting. We are calling it G&G Q&A. And what the three of us would like to do is just every week talk about a topic that we feel will resonate with the dads out there, the guys, something that you can't really talk about necessarily maybe with your spouse or your friends. It's tough situations that we all go through, and we want to just address a topic, have a quick discussion about it, talk about maybe what we went through. And again, we'd love to hear from you. We're going to have different topics every episode, but we thought this would be a good way to address certain issues before we get into a guest. So for the first G&G Q&A, and I think this is an important one that will resonate with a lot of dads, is how did you get back to work after you suffered a loss? And it's something that was very difficult for myself. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even know if I would ever go back to work, to be honest. But we have to provide for our family, for our wives, if we have kids, we have to provide for the living children. And it's a very difficult task to go on with your life and continue what you do when you have this severe pain inside of you and grief that nobody really knows that it's happening, especially in a lot of cases you're dealing with individuals that don't know what you went through. So I'm going to send this question out to Brandon first. How did you get back to work? How long did it take?
Oh boy.
You work in the school system
Yes.
at the time.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about, did you notify your coworkers before you were coming back? Did you take some time off? Talk us through that.
Yeah. So be working in a school, kids know obviously that, you know, we meet actually. Long story. Me and Miss Thurman, we worked together. So me and my wife, we worked together in the same school. So the students would see us together. Oh, you're having a baby soon. We're having a baby. We took off work, and it's like, all right, come back. You know, we don't come back obviously for a while. So it took us probably maybe like a month and a half, almost 2 months. And I was supposed to come back. After like 2 or 3 weeks, and my principal just was like, we're giving you guys time. Here's some more hours. Here's some more hours. Here's some days. So our staff, you know, thankfully donated some of their PTO, you know, time to us to kind of grieve and be in the moment, I guess. So it took about almost 2 months to get back to school. And, you know, with that, thankfully, the students were very, you know, open arm, warm hugs. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better situation just with embracing the students and still having that love and so on and so forth. So it was a beautiful moment.
So did the staff know when you were coming back? Was it
so the staff? I didn't. I called my principal. My principal kind of let out the information, and then technically, overall, what I did was I sent out an email to the staff just saying, "Hey, we lost Astoria. Prayers, please, for our families, so on and so forth. Please don't reach out, at this moment, but we do appreciate you guys and love you guys, and we'll be back soon." And then our principal came up to, hospital and kind of gave, whenever you guys are ready, come on back in. So it was a tough one.
Yeah. And I can imagine working in a school system, you're forced to interact with kids. And
Yep.
I mean, I come from an office job where I can sometimes a little bit hide in an office and take time for myself. I mean, what was that like for you where you have to be present with your students and the staff?
I guess it's different for me because I guess I took that on as, I know I lost my child, but also I have 400 other children here, like, giving me the love that I lost. And I embrace that. I know some people are different with, like, oh, more kids. Bring on all the love, all the hugs. I mean, I had teenagers coming up to me and crying on my shoulder. So within that, I'm supporting them, but they're also supporting me. But little did they know. So I took that with a positive aspect of things. Of, all right, I'm back in school. I mean, we deal with the kindergarten through 8th grade, and I'll take it. Give me all the love from kindergarten to 8th grade.
Now, how did you balance the pain and the sadness that you had with still trying to do your job? Because one thing I experienced, and I'll talk a little bit about what I did, but you have moments where I just wanted to break down and cry, and like I couldn't even maintain a conversation sometimes, and I had to take myself out of it. But how did you balance that sadness with, I got to do my job?
It's a tough thing to balance out with. And like you said, we got to realize that the house still needs to run. Everything still needs to go as planned, work-wise, so and home-wise. So going into that, I had my moments. I had my days of, wow, this traumatic situation just happened. But then I have to turn around and say, all right, well, my wife is still down and out. I got to be her support. I am the support in the household. We have another child in the house that also still needs us too. But I have to be the support. So everything from there came to, like, push through, swallow down the pain a little bit, push. So I turned it into just working harder and focusing more on making sure the house still ran.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, there's days I sit at night and just relax and just kind of have my moment with Astoria. to have those moments. But those moments back then in 2019, I definitely like just push.
Yeah. And it sounds like you had a good community within the school that supported you, and, you know, that's helpful, you know, and to have the kids, you know, I'm sure that was hard just to see all the kids, especially when you lost one of your own. But
absolutely.
Brad, can you touch a little bit, you know, about what you went through, you know, with them
and I know this is definitely an interested topic for our guest as well. So we'll make sure we pull him in at the end as well. You know, it's interesting when we lost Beckham, I was working at WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment. Yes, for those of you that don't know me, I did work there for a couple of years, and I
not as a wrestler,
cool. Not a big deal, not as a wrestler. No, don't make me take my shirt off.
But
you know, it's interesting. I worked in such a, you know, masculine industry, right? And with wrestling, but I've always been in human resources, which is a female dominated profession in a lot of ways. So I found a really interesting juxtaposition of support where my immediate colleagues, you know, when we lost Beckham, and this happened when we lost Ari as well, I was working at my current company, Anywhere Real Estate. And in both instances, I just sent a text to my boss. And it was, I couldn't even tell you, you know, something like, I'm sorry, we just lost the baby. I need time. I'll keep you posted when I'm coming back. Can you please let people know? Because as much as it was an uncomfortable situation to ask them to do, I knew I wouldn't have the strength to be the one doing those conversations. Unfortunately, I've worked for really wonderful and compassionate people that were willing to support. But then all this also happened during COVID. And so I'm working from home, so going back into the office was tough, or engaging with my colleagues and whatnot was tough, because some have no clue and no understanding, especially as men, right? Like, it's not like I was walking around an office with a baby bump, right? Like, some of them didn't even know I was pregnant, let alone that we lost a pregnancy. So like that whole dynamic is just lost oftentimes. But then,
and you're on video calls too.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
People don't know what to say to you. They might have heard through your boss.
You're often on video calls with multiple people, right? It's not like the catch you in the hallway or pop into your office type of thing. And what was really difficult for me, though, was I'd be at home, and I know right outside that door was my grieving wife and my son, Ashton. And so, you know, sometimes work was a healthy distraction that, you know, I could just say, all right, let me turn my brain into work at this moment in time and just try to add some good into what I do professionally. But then it was always tough that even the moment of going out and grabbing water or refilling the coffee and coming back in and seeing her and knowing what she was going through and trying to just balance from, you know, work to supporting husband to 2 minutes later back into, you know, maybe a conversation with the executive that you maybe know of, you know, that famous people that I've worked with. Like, that's a really, really hard balance to do. So, you know, I know we talked about in the intro pod, like, we don't have answers for all this stuff. We're just sharing our stories. So there's no like, here's the best way to do it. But I think the piece that Brandon touched on that I'm trying to get to here too is like having to try to find healthy outlets for it and understanding what you can do and what you can't do. You know, it was important to me that when I felt like I could just move forward and in that moment I could be strong and I could focus on work, then do that. And in the moments where I couldn't, I knew I had to wave the flag and say, like, today's just not the day, or I can't be in this meeting or whatever it might be. So tough balance though.
Yeah. The commonality that I found from both of your responses, it seemed like, Brandon, your principal was very understanding. Brad, it seemed like your boss, he was your go-to initial text message. And I can relate to that because my manager at the time, he sort of handled the circulation of the information because I was in no position to tell, you know, email all my coworkers that this all happened. I sort of gave the information to, you know, two of my best co-working partners and my manager, and they sort of, you know, distributed it and said, you know, please give him his space. But it sounds like having that, you know, support system within work was very helpful for you guys as far as, you know, getting through that initial month, which is very, very tough to
absolutely,
you know, do anything really. I mean, I, you know, just really quick, and I don't want to overrun it and I want to get to Shane, but I'm a commercial real estate broker, so I'm dealing with clients on a constant basis, and my clients don't know what happened. It's a little bit different work environment. So, like I said at the beginning, I didn't know if I'd ever go back to work. I'm a commission-based employee. I didn't feel any motivation to work, and that's bad in our business. But I was able to rely on my coworkers. Fortunately, I have good partners, and they did not hesitate to pick up the slack with my clients. They sent out emails to my clients to say, we're not giving details, but if you have any questions, we're partners with Brian, we're handling it. And that was incredibly helpful. And I eventually got to the point where I was mourning so much with my wife in my house. And it was, I want to say, about a month in, where I started to almost drown in my sadness, where I couldn't get out of bed for the first couple weeks. I was sitting on the couch just staring at the wall, almost like people didn't know what to say to me. Family members didn't know what to say. And as time went on, once I got past that month, I started to realize that work was an outlet for me. Yeah. It was a positive outlet where it did get my mind off of the mourning of my child. But I felt guilty in that also. Like I felt if I got back to work too soon, I was forgetting about Austin, and I was battling that guilt. But I also realized once I did get back to work and talking to clients again, that it was a little bit of an outlet. It was giving my mind something else to think about. Austin was always there, but work was giving, it was a different thing to think about. And at the time, that helped me a lot. I think as I got back in, it probably took 2 months for me to actually start going back into the office every day, but it was never easy. I mean, it took more than a year to deal with it. I'd always have moments where I'm talking to people and clients who don't know what happened, and that's a difficult conversation to have, and we'll touch on that on other podcasts, but that's kind of what we went through. And thank you guys for sharing. I think we should jump to our guest, Shane. And
absolutely.
I'm sure this is a topic we're going to be talking with other guests, and I'm excited to hear about what Shane did. So without further ado, Brad, take it away. You can introduce Shane.
Shane Connelly, why don't you join us here in the studio, my man?
There he is.
Hey, Shane, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Doing great, thanks. I know you just heard our conversation, and we'll get your perspective on some of that after you share your story, because I know when we talked just about a week or so ago, we spent some time on that, and especially doing what you do, it's got to be an added complexity. So let's talk about that first. Let's introduce Shane and the really awesome job that you get to have because of your unbelievable talent. But Shane, who are you? Who's your dad? What does he do? That's when I reference that again. Where are you from? Tell us about your wife and your kids and your family and what you do for fun and for work.
Originally from Philadelphia, and now I live in Madison, Wisconsin. It's where I went to school. I was able to meet Brad on my hockey journey through Culver Military Academy for 2 years. My mom shipped me off at 14 and said, "Here you go." And then
was Brad any good at hockey? Because he tells us he's always
he says he's the best
hockey player he's ever met.
that Culver has ever produced.
He's very close to scoring on me. I can promise you that.
He's not lying. He's not lying. I'll have to brag on Shane more here in a moment.
So then I left Culver after 2 years to further my athletic journey. I moved to Chicago to play in the USHL for Chicago Steel. I needed that was the journey I had to take. Again, I was telling someone this today because their kids just visited Culver. I said, that's the hardest decision. I cried in the bathroom for
Yeah.
3 hours going, I got to make this decision now because I got drafted and all that. So Culver led me to Wisconsin, and then Culver to Chicago. Then I was lucky enough to get a scholarship to the University of Wisconsin. Spent my 4 years there playing goalie. Lucky enough to come away with a national championship, which was
He won a national championship. Can we pause?
Say that again, please.
Yeah,
For the people
well,
in the
I
back.
can't say I was in the net for that because my teammate Smith
Doesn't matter.
was the goalie. But yeah, I was part of a national championship team there in 2006, my freshman year. It was a really cool experience just because we never left the state of Wisconsin. We got to play in Green Bay, and then the Frozen Four was in Milwaukee. So that was a super cool journey to go through all that. And then after my 4 years, eligibility was up. I played pro hockey for 2 years, and then kind of, I wouldn't say get burnt out, but when you come from Wisconsin, then you're riding the bus for 12 hours. You kind of get a little like, this is not the same. Like, or be on a bus for 12 hours. And it was just time. I was lucky when I made my decision. I had friends through the hockey world that were like, "Oh, do you want a job?" I was like, "Yeah." Bowling Green State University, through my coaches. Yeah, there's another connection.
My alma mater. That's right.
Yeah,
we were not there at the same time, but
one of my old coaches was like, "Well, we need a director of hockey operations and kind of quasi goalie coach." At the time, it was still a gray area, and so I went to Bowling Green. Awesome place. I loved it. That was one of the schools that had offered me a scholarship. They were actually the first school to show up at my house. I think they were an hour early outside my house waiting to get in before they could recruit me. So kind of full circle going back there. So spent 4 years there. Then was lucky enough to get a job in Cedar Rapids, Iowa for USHL team as an assistant coach. Did that for 3 years, and then my alma mater came calling back and said, "Hey, would you want to come back as a director of hockey operations again?" And I always knew I was going to move back to Madison because it's a special place, and that's where I'm at now. Still doing my job. It was the right thing because I got to meet my wife and all the other kids, and just this is a special place. This is as much as I am an Eagles fan. And my wife, I still don't vote for any other team. I'm not a Patriots fan, because I'm not doing it tonight.
Right. We'll see you in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's right.
Let's go. We'll have to do a live watch party if that happens.
I'm down with that.
So,
well,
that's
thank you.
Let me brag on Shane here for a moment. I mean, it's hard to top the fact that the man has a national championship. But as he mentioned, we went to Culver Military Academy together, which, for those of you that don't know, is a very prestigious boarding school and a huge hockey school. A lot of former NHL players that went there, guys that played D1 and so on. And so back when Shane and I were there was 3 men's hockey teams and 2 women's. There's now more than that. Culver's usually a top 5 program in the country. Right now they're number 3. And actually, did you see, Shane? They beat Shattuck this weekend, so might be number 1. That's right. Might be taking that number 1 spot. So the reason I mentioned that is I was a senior at Culver on the varsity A team. Here comes walking in this 5'2", 110-pound soaking wet goalie.
Come on, give me a little bit.
Short, man.
Yeah.
5'5", yeah. 5'5" to start.
Yeah, 5'5". So look, it's this huge hockey school, and to make varsity A period is impressive. To make varsity A as an underclassman is pretty unheard of. To make it as a freshman is like game changing. To make it as a goalie as a freshman is like otherworldly. And here comes Shane Connelly on the ice and takes over the starting spot over our senior goalie, and is just an absolute stud. And outside of the ice, he's just an awesome guy. And so, you've got a man here that's gone through quite a unique experience, and we'll certainly get into all of that here. Shane, you also have 4 kids with your wife that are from a previous marriage, correct?
Yes. So we have 4 other kids from my wife's previous marriage. We got a 15, a 14. Those are the both boys, Barrett and Wes. And then Lucia just turned 12 the other day. And then Isla is 9. So we have a lot going on.
And sounds like
busy house.
But that's what's keeping us going through is just luckily the boys made the same. They're on JV and they're D partners. So now they get along a little bit, but at least we don't have to drive them around as much because they can take the bus.
Are they crazy goalies like their dad or no?
No, it's too expensive. My mom makes 3 goalies, by the way. So.
True, that's right. It's
too expensive.
Yeah.
So let's get into your story here, Shane. And so you have the 4 kids from previous marriage. Sloane is your first biological child, then, right? So take us there. We don't have to go through the whole pregnancy journey or anything along those lines. But so you get pregnant with Sloane. Would have been 2021, right?
Yeah,
sometime in 21.
September of 2021, and we were due in obviously May of 2022.
And born May 8th, right? The 22.
8th, yeah. That was their birthday. It was a little early. My wife was supposed to be induced probably a week later, but we were doing something, and then she's like, "I think I got to go in."
Really? So we did that whole journey. Probably 13 hours in labor, me just laying there trying to watch TV, and then she's like, "You got to come sit with me." I'm like, "Okay, I'm still there," but I'm like, "I don't like when's this thing coming? Just let me know." And then the nurse comes in again, and my wife was like, "This baby's on the way," and the nurse kind of was like, "Okay," she's like, "No, this baby's happening now." Turn off the TV.
The whole hospital's coming in, and obviously no one else could be there. Still with the same guidelines with COVID. So, she was born at 10:59 on May 8th.
And I know when we talked last week, there was. When did you get an understanding of there being sort of a precondition that Sloane had? Was it before, during the pregnancy?
My wife's Isla, the 9-year-old, she had a hole in her heart when she was born, but that was able to heal. And so we go back and we're like, it's the same hospital that we used. So they had to understand we always mentioned it, and they didn't, like, all the doctors were like, "No, it's all good. We don't see anything. You're good." We wanted to get home because the kids were going crazy. Like, we want to meet our baby sister, like FaceTiming. Sure. So we were able to get out. So that was Sunday. We got out Monday night. And then obviously bring her home. And then we, the next day all the kids got to meet her. They weren't with us. They were with their dad. So we didn't know anything. We told them about it, and there was no inkling, on the checkups. There was nothing. Again, we brought it up, and there was nothing. Nothing of concern.
So the doctors are looking, and they're not seeing anything.
They're not seeing anything of concern.
So you guys are like all good, right? We
got a healthy baby coming home.
We got a healthy baby. We're all good. It was the most popular baby in Madison, I think. Like every time,
I don't doubt it.
It's like So we had no inkling of it at all. And then the night of the 16th of June 16th, that's actually a funny story. I can my best friend gave me this giant teddy bear. And, I hear him get out of the car, and he goes, "Hey, you're gonna hate me." I'm like, this thing's huge. So I got it for her. And so that night, while the kids were home, we had a sleepover. Like, the girls had a sleepover with the neighbor. And my journey was, I was like, I'll just take Sloane up to bed. Because then the girls were like, "Well, can Mom stay up for a few more minutes?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine. Like, I know how to do this. I'm 6 weeks into this. I got it. I can get her to bed."
Master, yeah.
Old pro.
And then I got up. I put the TV on. She was sleeping better in bed. We have a big bed. She was right in the middle, and that's where she slept a little easier. And so I had TV on, and I saw my wife come up to sleep. She came up to bed no more than 10 minutes later. In there, so I shut my eyes, and then chaos ensued. After that, my wife, she's like, she doesn't look right. She was already swaddled and all that stuff, and she was just looked comfortable. But my wife said she didn't. I don't think she looked great. So she brought her in closer to her to hold her, and then that's when she realized, she wasn't breathing and blood was coming from her nose. And then I'll never forget the shriek that I heard to wake me up, because it was chaos. But in 4 minutes, we got the paramedics were there. In 8 minutes, she was out of the house. So shot. I mean, I didn't have the strength to do the CPR. I just made the call, and then
when you told me that you were worried too, right, with how small she was, and doing anything yourself.
Not that I'm that strong, but I'm like, I don't know. I was like, can you do it? Let me call
on a 6-week-old. Yeah, you did the right thing.
We were on the phone with 911, and the lady goes, "Someone needs to open the front door right now, because there is a cop coming. There's a police officer coming in right now." I got to the door, open it. I was like, "Where is she?" I was like, "Upstairs." He grabbed her, brought her downstairs, and an awesome story. And we ended up talking to him. He was in a different district, so another town, the town over Verona. We're technically in Madison. He heard the call and was like, "Well, I'm right there. I'm just gonna go." And we ended up talking to him.
Wow.
We got his number. We asked, like, who was that officer? Because he's the one that got everyone there. And then it was like probably 8 minutes she was gone. We had no idea where she was. Like, the cop's like, "Well, can you drive?"
Just put her in an ambulance and go.
Yeah, good. And I was like, then we get all the other police officers. I think we had 10 fire trucks and 10 police officers that responded to our house. Like, our neighbors were like,
"Yep,
oh, it's Christmas today."
Sure.
So then she got whisked away. And then they were asking me, like,
did you have to?
I was like, I can't drive. I have no idea where she is. And the guy goes, "Get a shirt on and get in my cop car." And we went 95 miles an hour down the road and got there. And to kind of not be long winded, but so then
tell your story, man. That's what this is for.
So we got there. We weren't really sure that they did CPR on her a bunch of times. They kind of brought us in to almost say goodbye, and they were going to pronounce her dead at like 2:30, 2 in the morning. And my wife I had to walk out. My wife held her hand, and then she kind of Sloane started to respond, and then the doctor said, "Hold on, not done yet, not done. Leave the room. We're going to do it one more time. We're going to go through this one more time. Her body can't take anymore." So we sat there for, in the waiting room for another, I'd say 45 minutes, the longest 45 minutes. It could have been 3 hours, I don't even know. And then they came back and said, "We're going to take her to the NICU." And we were like, yes. Like, this is a good sign. Like, you're not calling it, she's not pronounced dead again.
Sure.
Because they had pronounced her that first time. And we're like, okay, awesome. And then took her to the NICU, got us up there, and we just sat and waited. And we just got told a few weeks, I'd say 2 weeks ago, that it was a VSD. But they couldn't do it.
Just for our listeners, what's VSD, Shane?
It's a ventricular system disorder. I just still don't even know.
Okay, it's something the heart. Okay,
it's hard.
The heart defect.
They weren't. It's hard to detect. Blood going in there. So they told us she had a heart attack. Someone else looked at it. They're going to tell you that, but that's kind of what they say when they don't really know what it is of why she passed. But it was heart related. And then the hospital was awesome enough to let the 4 kids and my wife's mom and dad into the hospital say goodbye while she was still, because they could have kept her breathing, but we wanted the kids to see her in a decent state before pulled the plug. So the hospital did an amazing job of going, "We're going to find a way. Like, we're going to talk to people to make sure other kids get to see their sister." And
how did they handle that?
The boys just kind of were in shock. Like, they're teenage boys.
They're all young age.
They didn't know what to do, right? Like,
you're
watching me bawl my eyes out. You're watching your sisters bawl their eyes out. They kind of were just like, "Oh, I don't know what to do." The girls are crying. Girls, obviously, younger girls crying. So it was just interesting, but I'm glad they all got to hold her one last time. And then they left, and we decided that it was enough time. Like I could have sat there all day. It was like, I didn't want her to suffer anymore. So after about an hour,
Shane, I had a similar experience with my son Austin, where we had to call the paramedics, and it's almost like a blur. Which I assume you had a similar experience of the time you have to call the paramedics, and to the moment you're holding your baby. Can you talk us through just the moments of like afterwards when you're leaving the hospital, like coming home? I just remember how hard that was. Like you can't breathe. I mean, I was having trouble like breathing myself, and obviously in tears. So tell us a little bit about,
so when we kind of did that, not insensitive, but like, here's the box of her stuff. Well, do all that. We got her baptized, go through all that stuff there. And then can I hand your box? Like, okay, it's time to go home. And I go, we didn't drive here. Like, I got to go get the And the social worker is a friend of mine. She had heard about it, and just through Hockey Worlds, I was like, "Yeah, is anyone can get us a ride?" And she overheard it because she was one of the first ones to come in after Sloane passed, and she's like, "No, I'm giving you a ride." Like, because I was like, "We're gonna have to take an Uber." Like, the grandparents just took the kids back to the house. So we just got out of the hospital, and she had to go run and get her car. She lived there. So we're like, we're just going to walk for a little bit. Me and my wife just walked, and just kind of talked a little bit. Like, we didn't know what to say. We just tried to get ourselves back to a frame of mind, knowing we're going to have to go deal with it all again. So we ended up getting a ride home, which was awesome. So we didn't have to sit in Uber with someone like, "Hey, what did you do today?" And Lisa just sat there and just said, "Whatever you guys need, let me know." So we get back to the house, and we knew people were going to be there. And that's great. That's, Megan's family. Like, we wanted to see them, and they wanted to give us our space, but we're like, "Oh, you can stay." The craziest part for dads that I will tell you is I didn't expect 6 hours after she died for SVU to be knocking at my door. That was the worst.
I was going to ask you about that as my next question.
That was the worst part.
Yep. That hands down in my experience too is having the investigators come, almost, question whether or not, like, what happened. And in that moment, it's unimaginable that you have to answer questions like that when you're going through that grief.
That knock came on the door, and I saw a guy with a badge and the medical expert, and he's like, "Hey, I'm with SVU. Like, can we come in the house and talk?" I said, "Well, I got family here. Like, we have family here. Can I just sit outside?" My wife's like, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Let me talk first," because I was the one that put her to bed, so I was the one really under interrogation. And the cop the night before had heard me wrong when he said, why was she left alone for 4 hours? I said, no, I got home at 10:10. I was like, I can show you the videotape. Like, that's why I felt like under interrogation, and we knew we did nothing wrong. And they're trying to be they weren't jerks about it, but you can feel interrogation. And then when they hand you the doll to go relive it and videotape of where you put her, how you slept, and then my wife has to redo it. That was the thing. I was like, I didn't know it's probably protocol, but I was like, it's been 6 hours. Then so we have to wait, until the autopsy. So that's Thursday. That doesn't come till Sunday afternoon. I looked at my Ring camera every single second of the day, every time it went off, because I'm not sure if the cops are coming for me. I don't know what they wanted to. So that was a scary part. Once medical examiner called me Saturday around 5, we could finally breathe a little bit more, knowing that, hey, someone didn't drop her and not say anything, or she hit her head, or someone fell asleep on her, or
Sure.
something like that. That was one weight lifted early, but that was a long 48 hours because I never knew that. I didn't think that would happen, but I guess I never thought I would be in this situation. I never asked someone like, "Hey, what's going to happen there?" So that was getting home and just kind of navigating that, and had people over, told immediate kind of people, and then just kind of wanted to relax for a little, like just try and find, because then that Monday you're going, hey, we're going to the funeral home. Oh, we got to plan our service.
Can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, did you have family do that for you? Did you have a funeral director sort of help you out? How did you go through that process?
Yeah,
so I know that's a lot.
All our
difficult.
kids went to a Catholic school. Megan's other kids went to it, and two of them still go there now, St. James Church. So we always knew that they were going to take care of that. But me and Megan went with her mom, and just a side story. My wife lost her brother to brain cancer 5 years ago, so we have people in the family that have went through loss. So she was very strong to go. At a funeral director, they ended up waiving all the costs. I said, what do you want to do? There's no casket that, I was like, we're not getting a casket. So we had her cremated. We just had to pay for the urn. But that was that wasn't super, it wasn't super stressful to us. Like, she was there to guide us through, and hey, how do you want it done? We knew it was going to be. So that made it easier that there was someone else with us. So it was not just us two going. Yeah. Because my parents don't live here. So, I don't know if they could get it. It was the right people. My mother-in-law was the right person to be there because she's already went through this.
Did they stay in the house with you for, the week or two after, just to help with the kids? And
no, everyone just pitched in. My parents ended up driving. My parents got in the car and just drove. I probably, it was probably a week or 5 days when I said, okay, you guys can come up now. Like, there's just a lot of chaos going. So we didn't have anyone stay in the house. We just slept on the teddy bear. We couldn't go up into the room. There was still blood on the sheets and all that. And then, we just slept on her teddy bear for about 5 days. And then your body starts to ache from sleeping on the floor. And you're like, we gotta just somehow as you guys talked about earlier, normalcy back with other kids. I was like, I don't know the timeline, like how we're going to do it, but let's just go back. Let's start with going back to bed. Let's sleep in the bed one night, see how we can deal with that. But we didn't have anyone sleep in the house other than when we had the kids. There was no sleepovers.
Sure.
Once we had our first sleepover after that, a few months later, we were like, oh no.
Probably pretty triggering, huh?
First for everything, right? Back into it. So,
yeah.
Now, Shane, did you, and this is, I think, a common question for a lot of dads. I mean, it sounds like you and your wife sort of gravitated toward each other in love and support. Is that kind of how you both reacted, or did you feel like you were kind of individually dealing with different emotions? I mean, talk a little bit about how you supported your wife and while you were dealing with this loss.
Yeah, I think I'm very proud of how we've dealt with it. Not easy, I think. As you guys talked about, when you're going back to work or letting people know, I come from a huge alumni base. Hockey world is small but big, and I allowed people to know about it. So people tended to reach out. I think so. I ended up fielding a lot of phone calls that I shouldn't have taken, just to talk to people and get back. And my wife, but I was neglecting my wife a little bit because she's like, "Well, just talk. You got to talk to me. You can't be on the phone all the time." And once we had that conversation, I was like, "Okay, I understand that." And that built us so we could talk more. We did talk, but we were strong together. And then I'd say a few days after Sloane's funeral, me and her just took a trip down to Florida. to my in-laws' house in Fort Myers Beach, and it was just us. 5 days, and we just had some great talks. Turned the phone off. I don't need to field all these phone calls, and I think that helped her in that, because she's like, again, I'm just sitting there on the phone fielding every phone call and talking about her, and it was too raw for her too early. It was right after, and and I was comfortable with talking about it and what happened, but I lost sight of what I was supposed. I wasn't taking care of my wife as well as I could have been in that moment. So that's
I think that's pretty normal though, Shane. At least, from my own experience, and you see the guys smiling here, like we feel as fathers and as men and husbands that we have to take care of everything else, let them grieve and just be in their emotions. And we'll field the phone calls. We'll talk to the funeral home. We'll talk to the family members and the distant family members that want to reach out. And so it's easy to kind of get caught up in some of that. But kudos to you for recognizing the very important relationship that was right there too, that really needed that nurturing and that focus, and for you guys to be willing to say, let's just quite literally get out of town and spend some time together and recenter ourselves. That's pretty powerful, because I got a feeling a lot of people may not.
Credit on that though too, because she was the one's like, I'm going to Florida, so if you want to come, you can come. And we already had our original trip planned to Florida, and we're going to go to Disney World later in the month of July, because we went at the end of June through early July, and then we already had that trip planned, and so then we can, because that was a kids trip, like go to Fort Myers, drive to Disney World. I was flying my mom down to watch Sloane because we didn't think it was going to be way too hot, and she can't really do anything at Disney World.
Sure, yeah.
So we did continue with that trip, and I would be remiss to mention the Aubrey Brown Club. Curtis Brown and his wife Amy, they lost a child. They played with one of my former teammates, Joe Pavelski, and right as he had heard that Sloane had passed, he said, you got to get in touch with Amy. They have the Aubrey Brown Club Foundation that they want to, I talked to them, they want to help out. They paid for 2 days of Disney, our hotels and all our passes. And that was fantastic, because we're waiting for as you guys, you're waiting for the hospital bill. Like, you're not sure when it's coming. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't think Disney is expensive. And so the Aubrey Brown Club Foundation did a fantastic job. They said, just tell us what you need. I said, well, Disney, we're trying to go to Disney World. So that done. Boom. 2 nights of hotels and all the passes.
That's amazing.
It's people helping people, and all the situations going through, so that we were able to go to another time to Disney World, or to another time to Florida, which was, again, great with the kids, just to get them away and, again, keep them entertained. And so that's good. That was helpful in the first 2 months.
Shout out to that foundation, because that's really nice. We talked about it early in the episode. Can you just touch a little bit on when you went back to work? What was it like for you? You work for, all of us played sports on this podcast. So, that's also a tight knit community. Talk a little bit about what it was like, how long it took you.
So I didn't end up going back till after Disney World. So I'd say almost a month and a half. We had our hockey school, the university that I usually am running all the day-to-day, and that's what I do day-to-day with our team. And I went back, and the first day was hard, because I felt like no one knew what to say anymore. They're like, is he back? Yeah. Is he not? And I just
tiptoeing around you a bit.
Yeah, oh, should we ask? Oh no, we shouldn't probably ask how he's doing. And I just felt alone. I was on one side, other people were on the other side, and I didn't know if there was a reason. I guess you're going in your own head, going, "Is this why? Is this how it's going to be?"
Yeah.
So it was good. There was one day I was like, "Hey, I just got to leave." As I think. Brian, you said, hey, I just got to remove myself from the situation. I'm just not having a good day. And I talked to my boss, who was great. And I said, you're just going to have to deal with me. There's days I just can't do it. So I kudos to the rest of our staff for picking up stuff because I'm a control freak and I like to know everything that's going on. And then they're like, "Oh no, we handled that." I'm like, did you handle it correctly?
Yeah. No, asking for help, I think, is so important. You know, people want to help. They don't know what to say. And,
so that was just a weird getting over. And then you see other people around, in a building the size of the Cole Center and just on campus. Like, you can see that people, like, I felt a little bit like people just avoided me. Like, hey, and put your head down. Like, oh, I'm like, we don't have the plague. Like,
yeah, or just give you that really heavy-hearted look.
I understand it's hard for other people too. So getting back August, and then it's been really good getting once the season started. For the reason, Brian, you had mentioned, like, do I need to work? Like, or everyone, like, do I need to go back to work? Like, I don't want to, but I have to. My main, because I struggled with that decision. I'm like, maybe do I take time off? Go, but it was for our players, like, and our staff that helped me out. But because I wanted to show them what like mental toughness is. Like, this is
strength.
I'm a teacher.
Strength.
I want to help you guys out, and you guys all showed up to my daughter's funeral, and so I wanted to go back for them and give myself. If I can give myself give yourself 2 hours on the ice of solace, and then just see where you're at. See if you can go back to more. If you can't, we'll have to rethink some things. But that's kind of my journey. It was really supportive. But I thought it was really awkward to start. And then the only thing, but then it was like, I'm back. And then that's where people don't. That's the one thing I want people to get better at is, like, I'm not back. Like, I'm not back. I'm here, but
never back.
You can talk to her about me. You don't have to just avoid like she never existed. You can't ask me how I am. Like, how am I doing today? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of how the journey's been, and just with kids. And I know, Brandon, you talked about it with dealing with 500 kids.
Yep.
And going back, you're doing it for them. Like, you're back there because I'm doing it for the 4 kids here and the 27 other guys on our team, because I want to show them that you can get through things. As hard as it is, it's just you guys give them. You're helping me by not knowing that you're helping me.
Exactly. I think that helps out a lot for sure, especially when you're working with children during that time. Kids are going to say the darndest things at the oddest moments at the worst time. And sometimes you got to take some humor into that. And the kids are just being completely honest, like, Mr. Thurman, you lost your baby. Are you okay? Very blunt, straight to the point. Yes, I am okay. How are you doing today? We love you, and we hope that you're okay.
Sometimes I wish adults would say that shit, though, too, right?
Exactly.
Frankly, like, just be real, ask the honest, state the obvious, and have the honest conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that worked out. I think helped me with my healing process, because the kids were very direct, very matter of fact. Wasn't the "he's in a better place" type of statements, or I don't need that right now. A better place will be with me, laying with me, watching TV, but that's just my own.
Right.
My dog passed away yesterday, so I know what you're going through.
That's a good point. Like, Shane, what works for you right now when people are making because I think it's helpful for other listeners to understand, especially someone like yourself you're in the thick of it, bro. It was only 6 months ago.
Yeah.
What is the type of thing that somebody says to you that does help, or vice versa? What is the things that trigger you, or like you're just so far off?
I think the things that don't help are the common cliches. As for instance, she's in a better place. Like, okay, time is healed. Time heals
all wounds.
I don't need to hear that. All I care about is if I get a text from someone like, "Hey, how you doing, bro? Just thinking about you," or someone just comes up to you and says, "Hey, we've been thinking about you lately." Like, that helps. I don't want to hear the bullshit argument where you're just going to say that because you feel like you have to say something to me.
Yeah, the
cliches. You don't have anything productive to say, then you don't have to say anything. Just say, "Hey, hi, how's it going? Hope you're doing well." So
I got God doesn't give you more than you can handle type of thing. I'm like, stop it with that one. Like, stop it. I'm big into my faith, but nope. Nope, not hearing that right now.
The cliches don't help. It's just, to me, it comes out for the phony, like you've been thinking about what you want to say, but you don't. So I'd rather you not say anything at all. And that, but I just like, hey, how you doing? Been thinking of your family. How's, how are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
How's you
and
doing?
when they say her name, I'm sure too, Sloane. We're thinking about Sloane.
Yeah. You can talk about
prayers to, because she's with us.
Yeah, that's
and with that,
like they want to talk up, like it's like you can say Sloane, like, hey, was thinking about Sloane today. Like instead of thinking about, like, hey, been thinking about you, you can say, if you honestly were thinking about it, just tell me. You can say her name. I'm not going to break down and cry. Like, I was thinking about Sloane today. Awesome, thank you for that. She really appreciates that.
Yeah, it's incredibly cathartic, and the recognition from other people, especially other men, of your child and saying their name, saying Beckham or Ari or Austin or Astoria or Sloane, that recognizes that these children existed, they still exist in our hearts, and they're still a part of our family. Mm-hmm. And that matters. And it's really hard for a lot of people, if you haven't been through this, to recognize that important point. But I think those of us that have understand the power in just speaking their names. Yeah. And that's why we wanted to bring this as a platform to be able to do that. So, I know as we're almost on an hour, which is crazy. And Shane, I'm so grateful for you sharing your story. Of course, we'll do a little wrap up, but wanted to give you the last words here, Shane. Anything that you wanted to say? I know you gave a great shout out to the support organization that you've had, and just an opportunity to say Sloane's name again on the pod or anything like that.
Yeah, and I want to thank you guys for starting this, because there's other ones out there as well, but like me and my relationship with you, Brad, of knowing you personally, to be able to do this and be able to talk, to encourage more. Again, mine's still raw, and I understand that, but to have you guys, to meet you guys, to build relationships with Brian and Brandon now too, like that means a lot. Where it does help, because we feel like we're not able to talk. We feel like we're so masculine and no one's going to listen, and we just need more groups like these and more people like this to be, hey, because just wrapping up, I've met more people that have actually lost children that you would never know. Like, I'm like, what? And
it's a bigger
like,
community
hey,
than
talk,
you think. Yeah,
like, let's talk, and it's giving more of an opportunity for just people to get together and feel more comfortable. So I thank you guys for having me on and letting me tell Sloane's story. And she's out there wind chiming right now. I can hear her chiming away. So thank you guys. I appreciate what you guys are doing. And if I can do anything to help, ever need a time filler, I can always talk. So cool. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Shane. We really appreciate it. Guest number one.
Guest
it
number
was
one.
a pleasure.
We appreciate you. We definitely love it.
I set the bar somewhat decent.
Absolutely,
man.
I tried to set it real low so everyone else can build up.
No, we're excited. We're going to post pictures of Sloane on our Instagram too, and so people can see her and
absolutely
say some prayers, because she's in all of our hearts. And thank you for
all your children are in my hearts too. I carry that.
No problem.
Knowing that we're in a club we never thought we were going to be in, but we're in it, and let's just get it. Let's keep supporting each other for sure.
That's right. That's all we can do.
Absolutely. Shane, again, on behalf of these guys in grief here, the fact you were willing to come and share your story 6 months in and to be our very first guest, we are incredibly grateful for you. And we would love to have you back at some point in time, hear how you're doing as your journey continues, continue to tell Sloane's story. Please give our love to Megan and to your family. We are here as a support, and let this not be the last that we talk. Certainly I know you and I will stay in touch, but certainly I know I speak for Brandon and Brian on this one, that I know they would love to as well. So
I'd love to be able to stay in touch with you guys, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Let's go.
Fly, Eagles, fly. All right, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shane. And thank you to our listeners. We really appreciate you checking out this second episode. Stay tuned for our next episode, where our very own Brandon Thurman will tell his story about story. So thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.
We love you guys. Thank you.
Love you. If you valued from this content, we ask you to share this podcast with others that could equally benefit. Leave us a 5-star review on whichever platform you're listening to help us improve our outreach, and to follow Guys in Grief on Instagram and Facebook. Also, if you'd like to join us and share your story, email us at guysandgrief@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.